So today I'm going to show you how I created these two paintings using watercolor and oil pastel. Okay, so the images I'm using as a reference have come from my sketchbook. I was just playing around here, but I love the combination of the translucent watercolor and the opaque pastel. Okay, and then on this other page I was just experimenting with different shapes and lines, and I really liked this sort of plant-like organic looking shape, which I'm going to use as a basis for the paintings. Okay, so I did do this painting before, and I'm going to use this as a reference as well for the colours and the general composition. You can see this shape here at the bottom, and I've continued it up through to the top of the painting, just varying the size. Okay, so now super quick run through the materials. I've got this Archer's cold pressed paper here, and I've got a paper I haven't used before, a bamboo mixed media from Hahnemuhle. I hope I've pronounced that right. I'm going to do the two paintings on these two different types of paper. Okay, so now colours. I'm going to write the exact colours in the description, but I've got a few different blues, more greeny blues, more purpley blues, a green and white and some greys. These are Sennelier oil pastels. Next up, my watercolours. I've got a purpley blue and these beautiful greens, which I love. Like I said, I'll put the exact colours in the description. And I'm also going to have a couple of whites to hand. One is gouache and one is watercolour. Okay, so let's get started. I've got my reference image here, and I've got these organic shapes which look like they're sort of fanning out and pushing upwards. So this is the idea that I'm going to keep in my mind as I do the base layer of paint in watercolour. So I've got my colours, which I already know I like together because of my sketchbook experiments and also the painting I did before. And I'm just going to sort of not get too wound up in the detail and just try and be quite loose about it and just start laying these colours down. Okay, I'm going to whiz through this quite quickly and cut some bits out, but what you really need to do when you're doing this part is just not think about it too much, not worry, because you're going to be covering quite a lot of it up in the oil pastels, so it really doesn't matter too much how it looks at the moment. I am covering the whole surface because I don't really want any paper showing through. Okay, now I'm going to get my pencil and I'm just going to draw that shape in just quite fairly randomly in different sizes. Okay, time to start with the oil pastels now, and as it happened I actually preferred the way that the one on the painting on the right turned out, so I'm going to whiz through this one super quickly, and I'll go through the painting on the right a bit slower when it comes to it. Okay, I'm just starting to draw in some of these shapes here with the oil pastel. So I'm just laying down the colours fairly intuitively, but at the same time I'm remembering this plant-like shape I've got, which I'm repeating, and this sort of upward movement as well. Okay, I'm going to skip through some parts of this next bit, but I am also using my palette knife a bit, and I'll talk more about that when I go through the second painting. I'm happy with where it's got to now, so I'm going to take off the tape. Okay, so what happened is I came in the next day and I compared the painting that I did with the one that I'd done before, and I felt like I liked it, but I thought it was a bit heavy. And when I compared the previous painting to it, I could see that it had more areas of light and more areas of white in it. So this is what I took into the next painting. Okay, so here you go. I'm going to get going on this one now, and I'm actually going to add a bit of white gouache paint over to the top, just to make sure that it doesn't all get too dark. Okay, so here you go. I'm just going to start doing really exactly the same thing, the pencil shapes, adding in the pastel, laying in shapes, working intuitively and trying to keep this upward movement and this sort of organic plant-like feel to the painting. So I'm using this sort of layered technique to give it a real sort of abstract feeling, where sometimes you see the whole shape and sometimes you don't. Sometimes the shapes are filled in, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're partially filled in. So this is just a sort of guiding principle that I'm working with. And also using that pencil as well to give a bit of detail and a bit of contrast to the bigger areas of watercolour and pastel. I'm using the palette knife to blend these colours together, and it also creates a really nice texture on the surface. I made the decision to move away from the mustard colour, and instead I've added in a green, and I'm just going to put a little bit of that into the painting. I don't really like the way this top part has a hard edge, so I'm going to soften it by using the plant shape to inform myself of where I'm going to put the colours. Now I don't like the shape that the blue has created over to the right, so I'm going to add some white on top, but using the pencil shape of the plant to guide where I put that colour. And that is making a really nice lighter blue colour. And it's also important to note that I have cleaned this white, so you have to have a piece of tissue at hand, and you always need to keep your oil pastels clean, otherwise you'll get muddy colours. I'm happy with how this is looking now. I think it's got an overall nice balance to it, so I'm going to take off the tape. Okay, here we go, the finished painting. Now I'm happy with this, but I don't like the way this line is coming down and it looks, I don't know, a bit like a hill or something like that. So I think I'm just going to add a little bit more to this just to finish it off, to change that line. So I'll just put tape on this side. I won't need it at the top, and I'm just going to add a little bit of the green to change the direction of that line. Okay, so the contrast between that darker green and the white is quite pronounced, so I'm just going to use the palette tool to just soften that edge a little bit. Okay, that's it, finished. I'm happy with this now. Now just to finish off, I'm going to compare these two paintings. Okay, so this one here is the second one I did on the bamboo mixed media paper, and this one here is the one done on the Archer's watercolor paper. So as it turned out, I preferred the one on the right because it's got a lightness that the one on the left doesn't have. I think this is to do with the paper, to be honest. It does actually take this mixed media technique quite well. I mean, it's true I did use slightly lighter colours for the one on the right, but somehow the watercolour paper doesn't allow you to scrape away the oil pastels as well, so that does give it this heavier feeling. Okay, so I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and if you liked it, please like the video, and if you want to see similar videos in the future, then please subscribe to my channel. It makes a huge difference. Thank you. Bye.